Something amazing has happened in Japan. A company called Metaplanet, they used to be called Red Planet back in the day when they did travel information on the internet. I remember actually using their website way back in the day, but they've pivoted into being a Web3 company. And as a Web3 company, I suppose it's not surprising that they know a lot about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies because, that's the backbone of Web3 anyway in the first place, right? So what they've announced is that they're going to be buying, either they're going to be buying or they've already bought. I'm not really sure what the situation is. I read both in different articles, but the idea is they're going to be adding 1 billion yen worth of Bitcoin to their portfolio. And 1 billion yen works out just over $6.5 million. Now, that's not, news stopping. That's not land breaking in any way, but it is significant. And actually, it's the move that counts and what happened as a result. So on hearing this, their stock nearly doubled in 24 hours, seeing a surge of about 90% in their stock market. And basically what's happened is people have seen this move as similar to what Michael Saylor did with MicroStrategy. And they've seen probably the success of MicroStrategy and how this is such a good idea. And people have gone in as quickly as possible, knowing that obviously the price of the stock is now going to be maybe related to Bitcoin, or at least associated with that of Bitcoin. So effectively, they're doing an indirect ETF, very similar to the stock price of MicroStrategy, which has been doing really, really well in recent times. So that's the first thing. The other thing, of course, is people are looking for a hedge against the yen. The yen is doing really, really poorly. It's the worst it's ever been, or at least in the last 17 years, apparently, according to many articles that I read. And because of this, people are looking for a hedge against the yen. And a move like this kind of gives people an indirect exposure to the best performing asset in the world, probably in world history at the moment. So shout out to Metaplanet for taking the bold step and doing what a lot of people are scared to do. But best believe that a lot of companies in that region, in Japan, possibly in Korea, in the APAC region, are going to be looking at the result of what happens from now with Metaplanet's stock price. And they also would have seen the 90% surge in the stock market. And some of them might be looking to mimic that because, who doesn't want a 90% surge in their stocks, right? It also signifies that the Japanese public and investors in Japan and external investors that also invest in that company are bullish on this sort of thing, moving into cryptocurrencies, acquiring cryptocurrencies, buying Bitcoin. So what has this got to do with XRP, you might ask me, because I probably added XRP to the title. Well, we're talking about Japan, right? Now, I said in the previous video that we're expecting some big things out of Japan very soon. That's because Japan is probably the most bullish country about XRP. Japan has SBI, right? Which is probably the one most bullish company when it comes to XRP, more bullish even probably than Ripple themselves. The CEO of that company has come out actually and said that they believe that by 2025, every single bank in Japan is going to be using XRP for cross-border payments, for transactions, etc., and remittances, and whatever else that XRP can do. Now, personally, I believe that if that were to happen, all the banks will also be using XRP for probably what is my favorite utility of all, which is the tokenization of real world assets. And because I think we've been talking about what's happening with, the SEC and the legal shenanigans in the United States, we tend to forget about the rest of the world and how XRP is surging on, XRP Ledger is surging on, Ripple is going ahead and making all these connections, and Ripple Net is still being in use by a lot of these organizations, banks, countries. We forget about Palau, who's actively using the ledger now for their CBDCs, etc. I think because we get a little bit sucked into this whole ETF news, people dumping, grayscale, yada, 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 we forget about what's happening in the background, which is what, if you detach yourself from the emotions, you're going to be focusing on, and you're going to be ending up being as bullish as someone like me, who, sometimes seems a little bit too bullish for some of you guys that are watching. Judging by some of the comment section, some people don't really believe in XRP, but somehow they can't keep away from XRP videos. So they're here to, ridicule us, laugh at us, the XRP army, regardless of what happens. So, I mean, that's a side, a little side departure there. But the whole point is this. The reason why I think that is super bullish for XRP is this. Now, imagine that you have a country like Japan who has implemented XRP in such a way that every bank, if not every, but even if a good chunk of banks, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50% of banks in Japan are using XRP for all of their transactions. And now they've already implemented this ledger that is also the premier ledger for tokenization of real world assets. They're going to pick that out above any other ledger to do it with, right? So we're going to get all this money coming from tokenization of real world assets, especially the property market in places like Hong Kong, China, and in Japan and Korea, right? Coming in, bringing in trillions and trillions of dollars worth of money to the XRP ledger. There's no way in hell that you're going to tell me that they're not going to start implementing a proper XRP ETF. Because remember, ETFs are popping up all over the world as well. It's not just in the United States. The only reason is, of course, the United States has the most money, the most clout, the most presence in the media, and what happens in the United States usually affects what happens around the world. Also, Ripple is an American company, so a lot of the energy is being focused on what's happening in the United States, especially with the SEC and the lawsuits and blah blah blah. But a lot of XRP's actual utility is happening or will be happening outside the United States. So we're gonna have all of the stars start to align at some point where XRP is in high demand for ETFs, and companies and banks around Asia and Africa and South America and the Pacific Ocean and eventually in the United States are looking for XRP, for everything, for their bank transfers, for their remittances, for their tokenization of world assets, for real estate tokenization, for arts tokenization. And all the stars align, we're going to get the same supply shock that we have with Bitcoin. Now, if that were to happen this year at some point after the halving and Bitcoin was already pumping to all-time highs, then it's going to be much easier for Bitcoin billionaires to move that money into XRP, right? I'm talking about obviously whales that are speculating downwards. If they've already made a killing with Bitcoin and Bitcoin halving and the ETFs and the supply shock, it's much easier to move that same money down to try and do the same thing with XRP. So we're going to see some of that money trickle down into XRP as well as into ETH and all the others, of course. But what I'm trying to say is if this really does happen after the halving and all stars align, like the SBI CEO, his wishes come true, the Bank of Japan comes through with their announcement, which is really very likely because this is an official bank who has made an official announcement. It's not speculation. It's not like some of the stuff that we hear from FedNow and some of the banks and organizations in the United States where a lot of it is speculation. This is a formal announcement that they made, a long time ago that this was going to happen. So I am extremely excited. You can see that I'm kind of bullish. Some people are not bullish, but each to their own. If you don't like XRP, there are hundreds, if not thousands of tokens that are going to do very well. Pick one of those and have a nice time and leave us XRP army, crazies to our craziness. Just remember that, this is not financial advice. Just do your own research and we will see you in the next video. Peace.